Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the marketing group conversation for November 30th, 2020. I put in a few slides. As per kind of the new process, we're using our key meeting slides, so we don't create new slides every time. I did add a few slides up front that hopefully you had a chance to check out. Just kind of for 1 second, let me just walk through a couple things. So one is just a quick update on planning. So I wanted to just show where we were for last year's model. And actually it was relatively predictive with some flaws that I think we're correcting for this year, which is good. And we corrected for a couple of the flaws, which were mostly around ASP flaws, to be honest, by over provisioning for the year. So this is one of the reasons that I think the model worked out, and the sales team is doing well and hitting or exceeding their goals in all segments. And then what's different about the FY22 model, FP&A is now building the model, which is great with our feedback. We're solely focusing on new first order this year, whereas in the previous years, we had this thing called new, which was actually new first order plus connected new. So now that we have the data, we're focusing on first order. We've evolved our ASP assumptions, and we'll have region level breakdowns and possibly even more granular, which I think will help with Ruggy's question here in a minute that we'll talk about. And then 3 Q4 opportunistic projects, because we had some budget that we could apply to these that we're trying to take care of in Q4. One is top level GitLab messaging, which is really a precursor to some of the stuff that we have to do next year, in the next couple of years, as we try to achieve being a public company and making sure we have a really consistent, repeatable, consistent top level message. The second is building a proper marketing database. So we are actually building a Snowflake database because it's been really hard to just email customers or email certain types of prospects. And so we just need a better database. And so we're investing to build that. And then the last one is website design system and CMS to improve our ability to make our website better, hit our goals around SEO and conversion next year. So lots of kind of heavy lifting done in Q4 that I think is going to prepare us for really good next year. So I'll stop there. The rest of it is the key meeting, and we'll head over to questions. So Mark, do you want to verbalize your question?
Sure. And the question is really about one of the things that you just mentioned, right? I mean, kind of course correcting as we go along. And so you captured it in the notes in that we do not measure or have goals around a per sal basis. So the fact that you're looking at reporting on this both regionally, hopefully even down to the sub-region and territory level, which again is something we've talked about for quite a while. I guess can you help the sals understand how they should look at it, that it's not measured per sal? Because if I'm a sal, and again, in the East last quarter, they got 2.2 per month. So call it, 6.5 for the whole quarter. So if I'm a sal, how should I think about that? And how should I think about how much time to spend with my SDR to help guide and mentor and provide everything that they really need in that relationship and deserve in that relationship? And so how should a sal think about it when one, that's not the goal, 2, we don't measure it that way, and 3, that's the result that we currently have?
Yeah, so good questions. And I think they are challenges that we should address. I wanted to point out a couple of things. One is pipeline is growing. So, and the way we modeled it was around a pipeline that then decomposes into SAOs and MQLs. And so from a pipeline perspective, when we had modeled this last year, it was SDRs are responsible for 37% of the pipeline goal for large territories. And I think we're actually hitting that. If we're not hitting that, it's actually because AEs are building even more pipeline. So I think we're hitting the actual number goals of pipeline for SDRs. And anyway, so from the perspective of pipeline, things are pretty good, even in your territory. But to your point, you have a certain number of SDRs or SALs, and they're getting on average 2.2 per month. And the question is that enough or no? I think we all want more. There's a couple of challenges. One, all territories aren't created equal, and you actually show that in the data you posted down there. Some are getting 13 and some are getting 2. And that's a problem. So I think the answer there is to look at each territory. I think the path through this is account alignment and making sure that at the start of any quarter, we are aligned between SDRs and SALs in large on what accounts we're going after. And that's what we're trying to move to across the organization. So field marketing's aligned to accounts, SDRs are aligned to accounts, and SALs are aligned to accounts. And I think that's the best way to get alignment, so that we're not worried as much about numbers of SAOs, but we're talking about, all right, what is our plan for these 12 or 15 or 20 accounts that we're going after? And let's go land 5 of those this quarter. Let's figure that out, as an example. And then I think the other thing is region level or sub-region level goals and getting alignment there. We actually had those. And then when we changed from the 101 plan to the 75 million plan, those kind of got, we didn't change the SDR plans, to be honest. I think we got a little out of alignment there, and we should probably get back in alignment for FY22. So anyway, I respect that this is a problem that we have to align. I mean, Sid put something in my 101 that he had talked to a former CMO of another company who, said sort of the same thing, which is like, you need to be thinking about marketing all the way down to the SAL level and keeping your SALs really well fed. And while I agree with that, that was for a company that has a much larger ASP, and it was very enterprise focused. So this was probably $100,000 ASP selling hardware and software. We're a different business than that, and a lot of our demand comes inbound. So it's hard to say, oh, I'm getting inbound demand and I'm going to route that somewhere else. I mean, it is whatever region it's coming into, which is why Pete and Chip are feeling better than Larry is and Sean. So I think we can try to adjust at the start of the year so that we're better aligned. But it's still going to be a challenge that some SALs are going to get fewer than other SALs are. Evan, do you have anything to add to what I just said?
No, I mean, we're in planning sessions right now with a third party called Topo to look at sort of how we address this equal distribution model. In fact, we have sort of our big planning session this afternoon with them. So it's too early to share sort of what we're thinking at this point. But we're working through it with them with sort of a fresh set of eyes, looking at all of our data, looking at the last 2 years of performance, looking at the current alignment, number of SDRs aligned, number of salespeople, et cetera. So there's a pretty extensive readout that they've already given us. And we're going to look at sort of our Q1 adjustments per their recommendations, and then realign the goals based off of the company goals. Our goals were actually a little bit higher than what the company needed for this past year. So we need to get a better alignment there for next year.
That's awesome. So I know Topo, we've done some stuff with them in the past, and Todd, totally agree with your account stuff that you talked about in alignment on account. The thing about only looking at the revenue side as opposed to the account side is the value of an opportunity, right? So the value of one opportunity for $1 million is less than 10 opportunities for $100,000 each, right? And so there's a risk factor involved. And so to me, it's important to look at both, not just the revenue side of it or potential revenue side from the opportunity, but also the account, because those values are different depending on the size of the opportunities, right?
Absolutely. And I think, this is where next year looking at first order is going to make that even more important, because the value of a 5K first order versus a 25K first order is almost irrelevant. It's like, we need the first order at the right company with, as Pyle will say, with enough, lamb to be able to grow and hit our goals in year 2 and 3 from those accounts. And so you're exactly right that the value of an opportunity is an SAO is probably more important in kind of a first order oriented world, even than the IACV.
Cool. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Kudos on the decoration, by the way.
Yeah. Christmas threw up all over my house for my 2-year-old. So, yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
Todd, is it helpful if I elaborate a bit on the metric we saw at other companies?
Sure.
So what we saw there is measuring marketing, not so much on like total pipe or even regional, but say of our account reps, what percentage have adequate pipeline? So all the way down to the individual. And then you can look either at number or IACV at that point, but kind of similar like how we look at our account rep performance. Like we have this percentage of people who are on target to hit 100% of their number. The same thing would apply to marketing. We have this percentage of salespeople who are adequately fed new opportunities. Is that helpful, Mark?
It is. And when I think about that, I think the velocity of the pipeline. So it's not just a raw number. So if some sale has X dollars of pipeline, it's really X dollars per quarter going forward. So we can start to be predictable, current quarter +3 +4. And so it's that velocity of pipeline and where it lands, but totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, we could.
I don't 100% agree. Just for the record, we have to look at that because I think there's the other issue that in a very inbound driven model, well, put it this way, there's two levers. One is where we do marketing. The other is where we deploy sales resources. So it could be that we could get better at that metric by redeploying sales resources too. So I agree with the metric. It's just, I'm not sure it's just a marketing thing. I think that's like a alignment thing.
I think it's both. And I think that's what we want to see, right? We want like marketing to like, oh my goodness, we can't get this metric without carving territories different and redeploying salespeople. But that's good, right? We're probably doing, well, I don't know. It's very painful to have your territories changed, but we might be doing too little of that. And at the same time, it's like account-based marketing. We know if we're falling short for certain people, we know exactly who we should go after, and we just double the ad spending on those accounts. Or just that's easy, but it's hard.
Yeah, and this is why I think like moving from what are regional territories to sets of accounts makes this all possible. Because then you can say, all right, we have to get output from this set of accounts that are a discrete group of accounts we can name. Because it's a target, we can all align on it. Whereas a territory ends up being like, well, how do I light up, South Texas or whatever? Like that's a little harder to do than if you can align on accounts. So I think we can accomplish both of those if we get that alignment right on accounts.
And so even our geo territory, South Texas, as the example you bring up, has a list of target accounts that are their priority one accounts that they want to go after. So we can easily do that.
Yeah, I assume most salespeople already have a set of named accounts, right?
Yeah, and I think we're well on our way to getting those aligned, which is good.
And to your other comment, Todd.
Sorry, Sid.
What do you mean, like getting those aligned? Does marketing think it's a different set than sales, or what do you mean? What is the alignment that's needed?
The marketing set is a larger set than what sales would pick. Meaning, yeah, so sales might come and say, I want to go after these 10 accounts. Well, how many sales do we have? That's maybe, a few hundred accounts. And then marketing says, okay, great. We're also going to target all the high propensity accounts, however we can figure out propensity, up to a certain number to make sure we have enough accounts to go market into. And just, aligning on that. So and this is what Emily Lears does. She works with the sales team to make sure we're totally aligned on a set of accounts. And we're, like I said, we have a set, we're aligned now. We're going to improve the propensity modeling, and we really have to get LAM right. So we have to understand how many developers, are possible to get out of those. And we're getting better, we're improved. But next year, I think we'll get even better at getting kind of that high propensity list. What would be awesome is if we get to a point where, we're just refilling the pool of high propensity accounts as we, everybody has 10 to go after. We land 4 of them, we put 4 more in, and we just keep going, and it starts to get that predictable. That's, I think, what next year is all about, is building that end-to-end account predictability. So we know we can just go target more accounts and then close them at a particular rate. Mark, did you have one more thing to add to?
No, I forgot what it was. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
Oh, actually, it was the your point on if we had territories that were getting a kind of an overflow or significantly more SAOs than other accounts and realigning sales territories, that would be fantastic. But I don't see any 1 or 2 or small group of SALs getting significantly more than others. If I saw that, I would split up the sales territories for sure. But I don't see that today. So I don't know if we have other metrics to show some of that or not.
Well, I mean, I think you posted in metrics that would argue there's a few, but you're right. Nobody's getting 20 or something like that. Yeah.
And even chips, the 13 were, some of them, like 4 or 5 of them were from 2 accounts. So it's individual SAOs. It's not necessarily number of accounts where an SAO happens. And so even the ones with higher chip with 13 and Pete with 10 were still a small set of accounts. So again, I don't see anybody getting 4x, 3x of others on a consistent basis.
Got it. Be good to go dig in on our side, Evan, to that and see if there's something, just some feedback we can give on that. So Sid, you asked a question in the chat. Do you want to verbalize that?
Yeah. And I put it under number 3. Like, do we have a number? Like, how many new first order named account leads should a rep get in a quarter?
We don't have a goal like that yet, but we'll have all of our goals will be new first order goals in FY22. So I want, just for everybody's context, the new first order metric really didn't come into play until, we didn't have it until Q2-ish. And then it changed a couple of different times as we figured out how to measure it and got the data right. And so that landed in Q3. So we will be able to have goals like that next year for FY22. In fact, all of our goals will be around new first orders for FY22 for marketing. So I don't know the answer to the question because we haven't had enough data to figure that out yet.
Thanks.
Yep.
Todd, if I can, I can type my question as we go, but this is about a different side of marketing. I have a question about more, I guess you would consider it strategic marketing. I see one of the goals in Q4 being about the CI kind of campaign going live, but I know that we've also had a increase in the number of use cases is the term I think we use. How are you seeing that going? And is it going to be the case that we kind of put all of our marketing dollars behind singular use cases on a quarter by quarter basis, or coming from a product organization, how should we think about the alignment between marketing campaigns and use cases?
Yeah, I think you'll actually see fewer, focus on fewer next year than more. So strategically, and you'll see this represented in, I think it's in the 3-year strategy, but also in the kind of planning goals that we've been working on with sales. It's imperative that we win kind of the continuous integration market. If we win CI, we almost always get SCM. And it also sets us up for security and ultimate really well. And so we've sort of figured out that that's what we want to focus on and go win. And that might be CI/CD, to be honest. We may market that as CI or CI/CD, depending on, what we find from experiments. And so what we're doing is, besides just, when we talked about campaigns in previous quarters, it was demand gen campaigns. The CI campaign is going broader than that. So we're aligning, our communications team, we're aligning our community team, kind of all of marketing to make sure that we really execute on CI kind of market share gain for all of next year consistently. Then we'll have some other plays as well that I think are smaller than that. Certainly security is one that we want to make sure we're executing on. Cindy on our team on strategic marketing, works with security. And I think she's really pretty convinced that there's a land play for security. And then agile planning is the other one that I think we have to experiment with next year. And because we just, we have some wins on agile planning lands, as well as some validation from Gartner around our agile planning. I think us and Atlassian were kind of top 2 in their customer choice awards recently. And we're hearing that from the sales team as well. So I think we need to do some experimentation around plays in agile planning, but I don't think we'll take all of the use cases and blow them out to the same. We're going to major in CI and minor in kind of some other plays, some other use cases that we think could be interesting and could be future majors. But that's what next year looks like. This year was sort of, we established all these use cases and we built a bunch of content. Next year is about focusing on CI from a play perspective.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Ignore the Star Wars connotation of first order, but talking about target accounts, it has a bit of a negative connotation for me. We are targeting you. It's rarely something good. It's probably the industry default. Is goal accounts or something like that possible, or is that too vague, or is there another problem with that?
It's funny because now that you bring that up, it sort of is out of alignment with our 3-year plan verbiage. Which
focus accounts. Oh, I love that.
Which was what?
Elsha.
What else should say? Focus accounts? Yeah.
Focus accounts.
I'm totally fine to rename that. I think target accounts is a very industry term, but I like focus accounts or something like that better. I agree with you. Just pulling up the 3-year strategy, which has, remember we came up with a word around that I think was really good, which was, I don't know, it was sort of about focusing on accounts and marketing and selling to them in a way that they were welcome to have contact from us. Do you remember what I'm talking about? I can't remember the words. I'm looking in the strategy right now, but.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're talking about.
This is probably about PQLs, product qualified leads. But I can't find it right now. I'm looking in, but Paul.
Morning, Todd. I just want to know if we had any marketing campaigns going to be set up on the announcement of Bitbucket with the end of life with Bitbucket server. And the reason I'm asking is I got an inbound lead just last week from a company interested in GitLab. So is there any marketing efforts around that?
Not specifically, for a couple of reasons. One is one specific reason is that Bitbucket server, there's also, I don't remember all their product names right now, but they do have a Bitbucket data center or something like that that is an on-premise Bitbucket still. So there's sort of a path. There was a little bit of confusion early on when Atlassian announced their stuff that they were kind of abandoning on-premise. That's not really turned out to be the case. So there's a little, it would be hard to go out and say, you know, because of what Atlassian is announcing. That doesn't mean we don't want to target Bitbucket users for sure, as you know, to move them to GitLab. But our focus next year is on CI. So I'm not sure that's something that we'd invest in. But I'll rely on the team to kind of look at that and see if that's a good opportunity for us. It may be that we could build some content to make it really simple for people to understand how to move to GitLab and what that would be like. But with our focus on CI next year, I would say that's probably not something that we would do specifically.
Oh, daar ligt er een.
Sid, can you mute?
Thanks, Todd.
Yep.
Paul, it's Elsha here. There was a nice thread in the sales Slack channel where Cormac Foster had some good information. So I'll Slack that here in the doc for you to have a look at. And it was about the Bitbucket.
Thanks, Elsha.
And it looks like SDRs are building a specific sequence around this too from the other chats. So Hannah Schuler said that.
I do just want to highlight the time. We are about 2 minutes over. So I wanted to thank everyone for their collaboration. And I will let you close out, Todd, but I just wanted to highlight the time.
Great, thank you. Thanks everyone, good conversation, fun conversation. So thanks Mark and Sid and others, and Kenny. Have a good day.